We're ready for the start. They're off.
Welcome in, everybody. TGIF. It's the First Call podcast. Jeremy Plonk, Jeff Siegel for Express Bet and First Bet. This is the podcast where we preview the weekend stakes races. And Jeff, we take 8 stakes races and put them in the menu. It was hard to just take 8 this weekend.
It's like the NFL cut down on Monday. I mean, you get like 30 guys getting cut, and they all think they should have been on the team. And it's the same thing here with the stake schedule. I mean, Kentucky Downs, for example, has had some great racing. We don't have any room for them here. Right. Didn't make the starting 8, as it were, but there's some great racing around the country, and you've got a lot of money at stake there for sure. So we'll be watching that for sure, in addition to the races we're going to preview.
Yeah, we've got 8 stakes races from you from Saratoga and from Del Mar on the podcast over the next 45 minutes or so. Flower Bowl and Jockey Club Gold Cup, grade 1 caliber races. I'm not sure how the Flower Bowl is a grade 2 now, but Jockey Club Gold Cup Flower Bowl at Saratoga on Saturday. Del Mar's got its big Pacific Classic card on Saturday. Biggest day of the year at Old Del Mar. Pacific Classic joined by the Del Mar Mile, the Del Mar Derby, and the Del Mar Handicap as races we're going to take a look at. The Shared Belief Stakes also on the undercard at Del Mar on Saturday. And then Sunday, we've got the 2-year-old fillies in the season capper at Saratoga in the Spinaway Stakes. And at Del Mar, Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint hopefuls go at it in the Green Flash. We'll preview that race on Sunday. A lot to talk about and promote here over the next 45 minutes as we take a look at these races, and want to let you know with Express Bet and First Bet this weekend, there are $30,000 in hit and splits on the late pick 4s at Del Mar and Saratoga. Of course, this is the final weekend at Saratoga. It's the next to last weekend at Del Mar for the season. But this weekend on the late pick 4s on Saturday, Sunday, and Labor Day Monday, of course, the holiday weekend here, all 6 of those late pick 4s at Saratoga and Del Mar will have a $5,000 hit and split. That means if you hit it, you take down the pari-mutuel money and your share of $5,000 just with the other players on the First Bet and Express Bet platforms who hit the late pick 4 on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday at Saratoga and Del Mar. So $30,000 sweeten the kitty from First Bet and Express Bet. Jeff, that extra $30,000 will come in handy for sure for our horse players as we gear up for a big fall here. Of course, we're drawing the curtain on Saratoga this holiday weekend. Del Mar has extended their meet in 2022 to go a week past Saratoga. So they're going to run solo next week at Del Mar with a couple days of racing as they take a break on the NYRA circuit. So a big finish for Del Mar. You and I talked earlier this season on It's Official about how Del Mar was off to such a flying start and how the end could be a great finish. This could be a huge finish the next 2 weeks for Del Mar.
It could. It's interesting because usually business kind of winds down after Labor Day, and I don't think the people at Del Mar are that crazy about having to go the extra week. It's just the way the calendar fit. But on the other hand, they're going to be the main show. And right. In this day and age of simulcasting, it maybe isn't the worst thing in the world to be the big guy alone. And we'll find out how that works out next week. But they got good racing next week as well. The Debutante and the Futurity, I think that's going to be interesting. So I think business will maintain itself at Del Mar. It's been a great meeting, both on the track. It's been, safe, knock on wood. Yeah. And that's going to be fun to see how it works out. But in the meantime, Labor Day weekend, wow, do we have great racing and critical racing in various divisions that'll set things up leading into the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, we talk about those 2-year-olds going this weekend at Saratoga. They'll go next week at Del Mar. We also have the 2-year-olds on the spotlight at Gulfstream Park this weekend with 2 divisions of the Florida Sire Stakes. And those races this weekend include the Affirmed for the boys and the Susan's Girl for the girls. I've got a couple picks in those. I'm going to throw them out as the little bonus plays. In the race 8, the Susan's Girl on Saturday, I'm taking Cajun Tease, the 3 at Gulfstream Park. And on Gulfstream's 10th, the Affirmed. My boy's back. Awesome Strong. He's in post 5. Loved him last time in the Florida Sire Series. I don't think we're going to get the same price this time after as dominant as he was there to go 2 for 2, but I'm still on Awesome Strong the 5. So give me the 3 and the 5 in the 2 stakes races 8 and 10 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. And as we mentioned with Kentucky Downs, there's a lot going on there this weekend. Racing Saturday and Sunday at Kentucky Downs. They've got the $1 million Mint million. And that race is our Express Bet race of the week. For my analysis of that race, be sure to check news.first.com, expressbet.com in the blog section, and in your email inbox as part of our Express Bet newsletter, full analysis in there. I tell you about Kentucky Downs because it's great racing. We saw it on Thursday with their opening day card, and I think the 4 top trifecta payoffs in the country all came from Kentucky Downs on Thursday. It's good betting, folks. You get up to a $10 money back special on every win bet when you play Kentucky Downs this season. There's 7 race dates, still 6 to go after yesterday's opening day. $10 money back special on win bets every single race of the 7-day meet at Kentucky Downs. Only when you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. Those win bets, if your horse finishes second or third, you'll get up to that $10 money back special refunded into your account in the form of wagering credit. So a lot of good reasons to play Kentucky Downs, a lot of good reasons to play Gulfstream this weekend. And I want to congratulate the Fun in the Sun final table. 30 players on Saturday, Jeff Siegel, for more than 1,000 entries during our 6 weeks of competition in the Fun in the Sun handicapping contest. They'll go at it in the final table on Saturday. 30 contestants want to get the number right. $17,740 in the prize pool, 10,000 of that seeded from Express Bet. The rest of it is 100% in entry fees throughout the meet was paid back. So we kept none of the money here. All we did was facilitate the tournament, and 30 players get a shot to go at it, to join names like Wayne Tam, who won last year's Fun in the Sun final table, and Robert Rosen, who won the inaugural final table 2 years ago. So which winner will we have this time? It'll be interesting. I want to give a shout out to Nicholas Nagy, Jeff. He was the top qualifier in week number 1. He topped $500 in earnings with 10 $10 win bets. That's a phenomenal total. Nobody matched that all season. And it wasn't luck for Nicholas Nagy. He was in the final table last year among the final 30. He finished 13th. So let's see, 2 years in a row in the final table for Mr. Nagy. He's the leading qualifier. I'd have to say he's the favorite in the Fun in the Sun.
I think so. Based on that track record, I would absolutely give him the edge. But you need luck too.
Yes,
but
sir.
you also need skill. You get them both, and you win money. And so good luck to everybody who is involved in that incredibly popular promotion that we put out.
With the Jockey Club Gold Cup this weekend at Saratoga, the Pacific Classic on Saturday at Del Mar. It's a good week to have the Breeders' Cup Classic Future Wager Part 2. That's also offered this weekend. Friday opening day wager for that. It will stay open through Labor Day Monday, so you can bet that all the way through Monday. You'll get a chance to see Flightline in the Pacific Classic, and you'll get to see the Pletcher Posse in the Jockey Club Gold Cup as well. We're going to handicap those races, and let's get started on our handicapping forecast for the weekend. Here's the menu once again, who we're looking at in terms of races. We're going to start things off in the Flower Bowl at Saratoga. So let's turn our attention and our programs to the Flower Bowl. It's race number 10 on the program. Flower Bowl at Saratoga for the filly and mare turf division. You would expect Chad Brown to be strong in here. He's got 3 of the 7 entrants. He's a 6-time winner of this race, which is more than anybody else, Jeff. And Brown won this race 5 of 6 years between 2014 and 2019. So you would think Chad Brown's got him surrounded, but he doesn't have the favorite. That's Warlike Goddess. She bids to become just the 3rd back-to-back winner of the Flower Bowl, joining Risk Averse and Stephanie's Kitten. This race inaugurated in 1978. Is it Warlike Goddess back-to-back, Mr. Siegel?
Warlike Goddess is like the I don't know, the first team all-pro left guard in the NFL. I mean, she's the best at her division, but nobody knows who she is. It seems,
yeah, right.
You know, I mean, Warlike Goddess has won 6 out of her last 7. By all rights, she should be working on a 7-game or 7-race winning streak. Mm-hmm. She got beaten the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf by a half length when she moved too soon, struck the front, and got nailed late. But other than that, she's won actually 8 out of 10 lifetime. There's no reason why she won't continue to win. This is not a handicap, so she doesn't have to spot anybody any real significant weight. Mm-hmm. She keeps winning. She never wins by a lot, but she does it easily. And her win in the Glens Falls here at Saratoga last month shows us again how good she is and how good she remains.
Let's go back and look at that Glens Falls for her run over the course.
It is Key Biscayne, Petrichor, Warlike Goddess now making her move on the outside. Virginia Joy is in behind horses. And then it is Temple City Terror. And on the far outside, Flanagan's Cove. It is Key Biscayne, Warlike Goddess. Temple City Terror is right there. And looking to come on through is Virginia Joy. It is Warlike Goddess who has the lead as they come on for the finish. Warlike Goddess just loves these marathon events. She wins the Glens Falls Stakes for the second year in a row, and she does it here under jockey Joel Rosario.
Jeff, we get a rematch of several of the fillies in this race, and there's two ways to look at rematches with multiple horses. You either look for the fresh face or you trust the result that you just saw. I totally trust the result I just saw. I don't see the fillies who ran behind her last time flipping the script this time.
No, I don't. I mean, Warlike Goddess, she's so consistent. You can see one of the reasons why is that she never really has to extend herself when she runs. Now, she wins, and it may look like it might be close at the eighth pole or whatever, but she doesn't seem to have to exert her, her best energy or toughest energy to win. She just does what she has to do, and that's a credit to Joel Rosario, who can measure the field and try to win races without going to the bottom. So the way she's been running and just breezing along, I mean, happy mare as she is, there's no reason why. But at 2 to 5 in the morning line, you can't make any money with her unless you can cold deck the trifecta here. That's not easy. So
Right.
I just love to watch her run. And whereas I think most people don't really appreciate her because you probably figure, okay, so she's the best North American older filly mare marathoner, but so what? The Euros are going to send 5 over her anyway. But this is one that I think can handle anybody. And I would expect her to win this race. And I expect her to be very tough to beat in the Breeders' Cup Filly of Mare Turf at Keeneland. I don't care who they bring over. So that's how good I think she is. And I'm just happy to watch her run again.
It is amazing how one result can really change the outlook on a horse, right? I mean, had she won that Breeders' Cup race, we'd be looking at her in a completely different air. We know she's good now. We'd be talking Tepin and horses like that of the last decade as far as distaffers on the turf. Sister Charlie, she would be in that kind of discussion had she won that Breeders' Cup race. She'll probably get a chance at Keeneland, of course, that she likes to make amends for that come November. If you want to bet on Warlike Goddess, like Jeff said, exactas, tries, it's hard when you got 3 Chad Browns underneath, how to sort them out. I think the best gamble, if you like something in the Flower Bowl, is to look ahead to the Daily Double, and the next race on the card is the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So let's go there next and see who we might match up with the great Warlike Goddess. Field of 8 for the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I believe this is the second year that they've moved it to Saratoga. It used to be late an October prep to the Breeders' Cup at 1.25 miles at Belmont Park. It's now summertime at Saratoga. Of course, no Belmont fall racing. They will be at Aqueduct coming up in a couple weeks after Saratoga finishes this weekend. But you have one more headliner for a division that's already had the Whitney this season at Saratoga. Now they go to the Jockey Club Gold Cup and a group of 8 in here where Todd Pletcher's got 4 of the 8 runners. Surprisingly, in his Hall of Fame career and as stellar as he's been, Todd Pletcher has one Jockey Club Gold Cup win. It came in 2020 with Super Saver, or not Super Saver, Happy Saver. So of all the greats Pletcher's had in the 3-year-old colt division and, of course, the handicap division, you'd expect he's had a little more success in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And the horse he won this race was really a late class riser during the COVID season that year when he won the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So Pletcher's got a shot here with a little more traditional power that he's used to playing with the 4 entrants he's got in here. Do you like one of the Pletchers? Do you like somebody else? Where do you want to start?
I would like to know who you like because I don't have a great opinion on this race at all. My original goal here was to try to find something to beat Olympiad. And there's a number of these that are kind of like the same where you can't look for, like, for example, American Revolution, maybe the best of the Pletchers, just finished second to Olympiad's, got to pick up 7 pounds off that Foster runner-up effort. Maybe he closes the gap or maybe Olympiad comes back to him. But what scares me about Olympiad, because you look at his form, and other than his last race in the Whitney when he was well beaten by Life is Good and Happy Saver and Hot Rod Charlie, I mean, he looks pretty dominant, let's face it. But he didn't run well in the Whitney, and I was thinking perhaps maybe, all right, he got beat pretty good, and maybe he's over the top, maybe he's tailed off. I really wanted to watch his last workout. I wanted to see some sparks, something that would lead me to believe, okay, Olympiad, he's good, he's sharp, he's going to bounce back. So I watched his last workout. I didn't see that, Jeremy. I just didn't see it. 49-4, last quarter and 25 and change. He's going easy, but he's not under any kind of pull. He's not pulling the rider around the racetrack. It's not a bad work, but I was hoping to see a little bit more, and I didn't see it. So I'm not really sure where Olympiad is right now.
Well, and you mentioned, just those fractions, the way that they were, it's not about the final time. It's how they do it and how they look and all that. But when the first quarter of it works in 24 and change and the second quarter's in 25 and change, you're not supposed to be slowing down when you're only galloping a half mile and breezing a half mile. I mean, it's supposed to go the other way, right? 25
right.
from the pole and you're going nice and easy. And then you finish up with interest and gallop out. Well, that's what you want to see. So it wasn't the kind of work that you want to see from Olympiad in there. I think he's going to be a shorter price in here. I mean, he always gets bet. He's had such a great 2022 season from the spring on. Is he over the top? I know we talked a little bit pre-show, and you mentioned he reminds you a little bit of Speaker's Corner, who had such a great spring for Bill Mott, but then went west last week and was really flat in the Pat O'Brien. Is Olympiad kind of one of those who did a little too much spring, summer, and is going the wrong way like Speaker's Corner might be now?
He might be, and if you're taking a relatively short price, you don't want to have to ask that question, really.
That's correct.
I mean, he's 2-1 in the morning line. Yeah, I mean, the idea here is that, he's going 1.25 miles, and I'm not sure about that. And again, once you get a horse, I mean, he got earned a 93 buyer number in his last start, which is, pretty good. Not great, but it's good. But he was a triple-digit buyer number in his previous 5 starts. And in a small field of 5, okay, so he couldn't beat Life is Good. But he was never really going well in that race. And maybe, I don't know. So anyway, I'm looking to try to beat him. I'm not sure with whom yet. I think American Revolution is coming up to the race well. He's training really well. On pure form, you wouldn't think that he could beat Olympiad or anybody else. But, he's 1-for-1 at Saratoga. So you can lean on that a little bit. Switching to Joel Rosario, he's got enough tactical speed to lay close to what should be a moderate pace, and he might be a viable alternative to Olympiad.
You asked me at the top, you were trying to get me to make a pick, and I stalled as long as I could, Jeff. I mean, that was not like unintentional. That wasn't my mind just drifting and wandering there. This is a tough one. This is a hard one to settle in on. A lot of these horses are picking up a lot of weight and they're adding distance at the same time, and so that's a factor. Like American Revolution carried 118 in the Foster. Now he's got to carry 126 and stretch from 1.1 miles to 1.25 miles. That's a lot of weight. Dynamic One won the Suburban under 118. Now goes to 126. 8 pounds extra to go another 1/8 of a mile. I do think Dynamic One is a pure 1.25 miles distance kind of horse, though. So I think that's a good sign for him. I think he's a horse who can get some ground. Keep Me in Mind is interesting because I think he's the Pletcher who's probably going to go off the biggest of the bunch. He was a really solid late running 2-year-old and 3-year-old for Robertino Diodoro. He was off for a year. His comeback win was a good one last time because he didn't get a lot of pace help in there. 112 and change, 48 and change for 1.1 miles. And he rallied at 1.1 miles to win here at Saratoga. At 1.1 miles, I like the inside post and speed at Saratoga. So he didn't get a great pace set up. He was a come from behind horse and he still delivered. That's probably a better than it looks effort. I know Rosario jumps now to ride American Revolution, the more proven stakes horse for Pletcher, but you get Javier Castellano, who's riding the best he's ridden in at least 5 years, probably. So I think Keep Me in Mind could be the price play. He carried 125 last time over the 1.1 miles. These other horses, again, picking up 8 pounds off their last effort, maybe some of them on the south side of their form. This horse isn't in the south side of his form because he missed a year and he came back with Pletcher. So he's like in a good part of his form cycle, right? Second off the layoff is my favorite bet when it comes to a form cycle. How does a horse run second off the break? I like that. I'm going to take Keep Me in Mind in here. I delayed and hemmed and hawed on it a little bit, but I think he's going to be a good price. He's going to be one of the 4 Pletchers in here and probably the 3rd choice of the 4 Pletchers, maybe even the 4th choice of the 4. So he'll be my play in here. Keep Me in Mind. And, maybe you get a little Warlike Goddess to keep me in mind so that maybe even get double the price. Because sometimes even when a 2 to 5 shot wins that first leg of a double, it still pays about even money on a daily double as far as, like looking at what the payoff would be. So if we're looking at maybe 6-1 on Keep Me in Mind or 8-1 in this race, you might get 12 or 16-1 playing the double from War Like Goddess. And I think she's a free space. So to me, that's the way to attack those 2 stakes races at Saratoga. But this is a good edition of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And if Olympiad's as good as he was in the spring, it becomes like an A-list division of Jockey Club Gold Cup, because when Olympiad's good, he's one of the top 5 Breeders' Cup Classic contenders. We'll see if he can get back to that.
I'd like to see it happen. As far as your pick on Keep Me in Mind, 12-1. The one thing I'll tell you about him is that off the layoff, he had for Pletcher, he trained unbelievably well prior to his comeback win. He was bet like he couldn't lose, and he didn't. And so he's as good, if not better, than he was as a 3-year-old. And you're right. I mean, at 12-1, he has got as good a chance as any, I think, as far as I'm concerned. But you're going to get a good price because of the fact that Rosario jumps off. And a lot of people look at that saying, well, he prefers American Revolution. Maybe he does, but it doesn't mean that Keep Me in Mind can't beat him. So throw him in. Right. Use him at 12-1.
All right, let's take our shot there at Saratoga. 2 stakes races, big ones, races 10 and 11 on the card. All right, Jeff Siegel, let's turn our attention now to Del Mar on Saturday, where it's Pacific Classic Day, and the first stakes race that we will look at will be race number 7, the Del Mar Mile. Of course, the Shared Belief earlier on the card, New Grange and some other 3-year-olds that we're familiar with going in that one, but for handicapping purposes, let's turn our attention now to race number 7, Saturday, where the Turf and Surf meet. Interesting race where last year's Pacific Classic winner shows up. Tripoli's in here, Jeff, and it's interesting that he turns back to the mile and he switches over to the grass in this situation. Not too often you get a defending champ in the Pacific Classic leaving for another spot, but he happens to be stablemate to one Flightline.
Yeah, I think that they probably figure that maybe Tripoli would have a hard time beating Flightline. Maybe we can win this race instead. And Tripoli's had some success on grass, but this is a race. It's a very good race, and it all depends on how much you believe, if you believe in it at all, in Iridio's win in the Wicker. I know that was just a restricted win, but for him to do what he did in that race, I didn't see him coming, even though he was a Group 1 winner in Argentina way back in December of 2020. So he had credentials, and his races here, the 3 previous prior to that race, wouldn't have impressed you all that much. But when you look at his win in the Wicker, when they went 48 to the half and came home in 47-2, and he's 10th down the backstretch, and he has to weave his way through all the traffic and quicken and accelerate with the turn of foot that he showed. To me, I had actually didn't even like him in that race, and I got beat. I had Brand in that race, and I said, "Who is that?" And he went by me. I went back and watched the replay, and I'm saying, "Okay, I don't feel bad because that horse was best. He's trained well since. I don't see any reason why Iridio won't run back to his Wicker win, and his Wicker win was really, really good."
The Rich Strike of the California turf scene. You didn't see him coming, and he said, "Who's that?" Looking down at the program. For folks watching the video podcast version of First Call, we're going to go back and take a look, and I want you to set up who we're looking for here, because this is a tough one to spot, but it's the number 1 on the inside, Iridio, white cap, blue silks with yellow on the sleeves. Look to the inside for the 1 here as we pick this up in the stretch. Iridio is going to make the sharp run Jeff talked about.
They come for home now, and it's still Kentucky Pharaoh. Bran has room at the rail now, running on late as Iderio. They come for home, and it's Kentucky Pharaoh. Bran on the inside, Gregorian Chant flying late, and also Iredio. Iredio's mowed them all down. Iredio up to win it. Bran second, then Gregorian Chant, photo for 4th.
31-1 under Hector Barrios, Jeff.
Well, the leaders came home in 23 flat, so you kind of figure what he did.
Yeah,
that's an exceptional turn of foot. And here's a 6-year-old gelding, and now he's just turned 6 because he was bred on Southern Hemisphere time, but he's only had 10 starts, 5 wins and 2 seconds. So while he may be a little older than you'd expect, he's a fresh horse. He's trained very well, slow and easy on the dirt since that race for Marcelo Polanco, who used to be Julio Canati's right-hand man and in the glory years there, and gets some of these South American horses done very well with blue stripes. So I don't see any reason in the world why Iridio won't run back to that race. He's drawn well in the 3-hole. He's not really that slow early. I mean, and he can lay fairly close. He likes to get some cover, like sit in the middle somewhere or first, second flight, and then quicken. And I think that's the race, the way it's going to shape up here. And I'm looking at this race. There is pace in the race. He can sit back and make a run. So 5-1. And Hector Barrios, by the way, really impressive out here in California. Terrific grass rider. So he's started when he came out here originally. No one even heard of him. Didn't know who he was. He's a good rider. And I got to tell you, he fits Iridio perfectly. And I expect to see the same kind of race in this race as we saw in the Wicker.
What do you make of Kafkin Peak? This is a horse I liked a lot when he came up through his maiden win, through the Eddie Logan. I thought he was going to be a really good 4-year-old. 3-year-olds on the turf, you don't see a lot of great races. You get the Del Mar Derby, we'll talk about in a bit, but there's not a lot 3-year-old turf racing. I thought this was going to develop into a really good 4-year-old. He's been okay. He has never run a bad race, but his only win was an allowance company in 2 starts this year, 3rd in the Eddie Reed. Is he overrated in my mind, or is he just okay, or is there more there in the tank, you think?
Well, here's the thing about Captain Peak. He's kind of like Iridio. The only difference is that from 0 to 60, with what you need from the 8th pole to the wire, he doesn't quicken like Iridio. He runs on, but he doesn't ever give you that explosion type of thing. And in California, especially at Del Mar, where you got a very short run in from the top of the stretch to the wire, you better be able to accelerate on a dime. And Kafkin Peak just doesn't have that. I mean, he tries hard. He looks like he's going to get there, but when push comes to shove in the final 16th of a mile, he just can't quicken like some of these others. Now, he's still a good horse. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He's going to win some good races eventually. But if the race is reduced to a sprint home, he's usually at a little bit of a disadvantage.
Bottom of the try and super, those kinds.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely. No, that's where he's useful for sure.
No lead, no pass, I like to call them. And those kind
Yeah.
of horses are going to end up on the bottom of your tickets a lot of times. Let's turn our attention now at Del Mar. Race number 9 on this Pacific Classic card is the Del Mar Derby for the 3-year-olds on the turf. We've got a couple horses we're familiar with throughout the series, the La Jolla, the Oceanside, the races that lead into the Del Mar Derby. Jeff Siegel with me here on the First Call podcast. Jeff, who do you like in the Del Mar Derby, and tell us why?
Like McKinnon. I'm still convinced that McKinnon is a good horse and will still be a good horse. He's a 3-year-old son of American Pharoah. He has a very right to be a good horse. Last year as a 2-year-old, he won 3 in a row, broke his maiden, won a stake at Del Mar, and then he won the Zuma Beach. Went a little stale. I tried him on the dirt. That didn't work. And in the Oceanside, he was a little disappointing. He was even money that day, but he didn't have the best of trips. He really has trained well since then. This is a dirt work that we saw on August 20th. He's got a stablemate who is not all that much, but giving him a little bit of a target. I love the way he quickens into the stretch. Again, remembering this is a grass horse, and he's going to do this work in a minute and change, but he's under wraps, Jeremy, every step of the way.
Yeah, he
Sharp
looks good.
and eager, looks terrific. I think at 1 1/8, I think you're going to see McKinnon settle and then really show his best stuff. And his best stuff, I'm convinced, is going to allow him to be a really good colt. Again, he's only had the 9 starts, and he's had some trouble, some of it self-caused. But there's no excuse to me on Saturday. This horse should really fire.
Doug O'Neill looking for his first win in the Del Mar Derby. That's surprising, as many turf horses he's had over the years, and the way he fills the entry box. He's got a shot in here with McKinnon, of course, and with Slow Down Andy. So 2 shots in here for trainer Doug O'Neill. Balnikov's been a good one for trainer Phil D'Amato. He won this race in 2014 with Midnight Storm. He comes off a win in the Oceanside on opening day at the Del Mar meet. So the Oceanside's supposed to get you ready for the Del Mar Derby. We talked when we analyzed the Oceanside, though, Jeff, I recall this saying it's going to get a lot tougher in the Del Mar Derby, that Oceanside wasn't as strong as what they'd see at the end of the meet. This is a good edition of the Del Mar Derby, but not elite. So I don't know how much tougher it got than what we expected it to get from the Oceanside.
I think, like I say, I think McKinnon's got an upside, a ceiling that the others don't have, but he's got still have to go out and do it. But Balnikov, I'll say I picked against him in the Oceanside. I wasn't that crazy about the way he was training. and he still won the race. And I can tell you he is training really, really well now. So that's the one I think that McKinnon has to worry about. And I think Balnikov does have, again, a little bit of a more of an upside than some of the others. I mean, Dandy Warhol won an allowance race, looked good, but he got a setup that day. I'm not really sure whether they're going to go 21-3 and 44-3 in this race, going a mile and 8. So he's going to have to come against the grain a little bit. I think he's going to develop nicely. He's only had 3 starts from Mark Klatt. So there's some upside for Dandy Warhol, and Pratt's going to take over and ride him. But that's because Spoli rides Balnikov, which you can expect him to do because he won the stakes with him last time. But it's going to be an interesting race. But to me, if McKinnon, if he just drops his head, switches off, doesn't try to run off or do anything stupid, which he's done in the past, but the way he's been working, and that's one of the reasons why they've been breaking him up behind horses, just to try to get him to relax. If he minds his manners, I think he's the best horse in the race.
Dandy Warhol. That's just that's a technical foul with the Jockey Club naming there. I just can't get into that one. Although Worst Reed Sanchez is a good name too. That was the horse who was working on video with McKinnon.
Right.
Of course, he's the follow-up to Bad Reed Sanchez, the horse that O'Neill and Redham had a few years ago, both knocking on former Jets quarterback and USC quarterback Mark Sanchez. So they went from Bad Reed Sanchez to Worst Reed Sanchez. I guess the next round will be Worst Reed Sanchez as they go from bad to worst. But that's a look at the Del Mar Mile. Let's our Del Mar Derby. Let's turn our attention now to the main event. Pacific Classic at Del Mar on Saturday, race number 10, 1.25 miles, field of 6, but all eyes are on just one, that being number 5, Flightline. He's unbeaten to this point in 4 career starts between 6 furlongs and a mile. Jeff Siegel joins me now to analyze the field, and obviously it starts with Flightline, Jeff, a horse that I know you've seen up close and personal and that you've been highly impressed with for a long time.
Well, not only is he a great-looking horse, but he is a horse that has got everything going for him, except for the fact that he hasn't been 1.25 miles. But the way he's been training, I don't even think that's going to be a problem, especially in a race like this where they're going to hand him the lead. I mean, nobody's going to, try to run with him and ruin any chance of finishing second. There's nothing wrong with finishing second in a $1 million race. And the way he's been training, I mean, you would never think that this horse has never been around 2 turns, the way he's been relaxing and finishing and 59 and change. And just, I mean, again, this looks like a 103 breeze. I mean, he's just going so easily, never gets tired. And not, I mean, you look at his form and you have to remember last year on this very same racetrack, he won an allowance race by almost 13 lengths and earned the 114 Beyer number in his second lifetime start. Yeah. So we know he likes the track. He's training very well. He's smart as you can possibly be. And I'm in the form. I mean, he won the Met Mile with trouble. He won that race by 6. Before that, he won the Malibu by 11. So, I mean, not only is he winning, he hasn't even been tested. Right. Except for the Metropolitan Mile, which he would have won by 12 if he hadn't gotten shut off and taken back early at the start. So, and the only horse that can even bother him early is Stiletto Boy, and he's outside. But I think what their plan is to try to sit a distant second, run their own race, try to win second money. That's, I think, $200,000 or something. Not a bad payday for a gelding. I think that's probably what they'll try to do. Now, if there was a rabbit in there that could run with Flightline, maybe you could think, maybe he might get caught up. But I don't think that's going to happen here. I've watched Country Grammar work. He hasn't been impressive. He's just not a good workhorse. He's a good 1.25 mile type horse, but I don't think he's going to get the help up front that he needs. Royal Ship is capable of running very, very well. I just never know when that is. I mean, I've tried that. I've tried him on the off races. So I think it's good news for Richard Mandela that I'm not picking him, because if I did, he'd finish 5th. I'm sure of that. But he's got a chance to run second. I really did like his run in the San Diego. They didn't go that fast, and he still circled the pack and one going away. But none of them have a chance to beat Flightline if Flightline runs up to what I think he's capable of doing. And it'll be interesting to see how impressive, if he does win, and how he impacts the Breeders' Cup Classic, and whether or not that field will consist of him and 4 others or 5 others, because there are 4 or 5 others that are really good, but after that it kind of drops off. So we'll see what happens with Flightline as we watch him in what almost surely will be the second to last race of his career.
There's like some good news and bad news when you look at the history of the Pacific Classic. One of the most surprising statistics, and one of the things I almost had to do a double take with, John Sadler's won this race 3 of the last 4 years. And if you'd have said a trainer has won the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Classic Division race at any particular circuit 3 of the last 4 years, who is it? John Sadler would not have been on the first 5 choices for a lot of people. And he won it. And this is the good news, bad news part. He won it with Accelerate, Higher Power, and Tripoli. They're not Flightline, folks. I mean, they're good horses. Accelerate did go on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic and really got good for a period of time there. But none of those horses are anywhere near the stratosphere and talent that we see with Flightline. So that's the bad news for the rest. If John Sadler won this race 3 of the last 4 years with those horses, what's he going to do with this one?
Yeah, and like I say, this is a colt that is he's the kind of horse that is so easy to train because he does whatever you want him to do. If you want him to go 58, he'll do that. If you want to go 102, he'll do that. That's what makes him great. He doesn't tear off and I know a lot of people saying, well, he's only run 4 times. I can tell you for a fact that was never the intention. Okay. He's had some issues. He's good now. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's great now, but he's had some problems. And I don't want to get nothing that would cripple him or anything that would prevent him from running. You just need to, when you have a horse this good, you want him to showcase himself when he is good. And while he was intended to come back after the Malibu and run in early March, that he had to come up with a little minor problem behind. And now it's a position of, well, okay, we won the Met Mile. We let's run the Pacific Classic. And he trains so well, you don't have to worry ever about him being short for any race. So you don't have to run him into shape. So I'm looking forward to a great performance again. And Flightline is he's just not only he's a great horse, he's an incredibly good-looking horse too. He looks the part. He looks like a champion's supposed to look like.
If you're going to make the case to beat him, you can do it on paper, right? I mean, if you like what you see on paper, but not what your eyeballs tell you. Country Grammar's won $10 million, and he's got a full resume. He's won all over the world. He takes his track with him. His trainer, Bob Baffert's tied with Bobby Franco with 6 wins in the Pacific Classic all time, could set the record and have it for himself. If Country Grammar's successful, you get John Velasquez to come out and ride again. There's a case to be made on paper, and the fact that Flightline's never even raced around 2 turns. But the tote board doesn't give a crap about the paper because the tote board's going to tell you Flightline is 1-5 in this race, and I think he's going to be bet accordingly. I think he's going to be played that heavily in here. If you like Country Grammar, you just need Flightline to not get the distance. That's really the plan here, and the hope, right? I mean, that's what you're tagging your hopes if you're playing Country Grammar or anybody else. You just have to hope that this horse can't get the distance.
Well, I tell you what, if you like Country Grammar, don't watch his last workout. It's on xptv.com. Now, I will say this, Country Grammar is not a good worker. So, don't think that, he worked bad so he can't run. He does much better in the afternoon when the money's on the table. Like you mentioned, he's worth $10 million. But if you watch the work, you'd say, he's not going to beat Flightline. I mean, he's not going to win an 80 claimer, because he just doesn't do it in the morning, but he'll probably lay his body down. He'll sit back. He'll make his run. But when you look at, he's been running against Royal Ship and those kind of horses. And, this is a different level. This is a whole different ball of wax for Country Grammar. But he could run second. But even then, if he does that, what are you looking at in terms of an exacta? There's no money.
That's got like $5 in front of it. That's not much on that. Right. Express Train's a horse, I think, maybe for the exacta, loves Del Mar. His only disappointing race at Del Mar was in this race last year. He maybe left his race on the track in the San Diego a year ago. John Sheriff skipped the San Diego this year. I'm not sure if that was intentional or by necessity, but he comes in a lot fresher than he did last year, all since the Californian in April. And we know he loves the track at Del Mar. So Express Train maybe underneath, who I think is really, a true 1.25 mile horse. Yeah. There's no problem for him. At that kind of distance. But as a gambler, short field with a heavy favorite, exact is not the play. You've got to look and let the field size work for you in a daily double, because we've got a much bigger field to gamble into in the next race on the card, the 11th, the Del Mar handicap. So if you're playing Flightline, forget about the exactas. Unless you're getting a number that you think is really an overlay on the straight combination you like, flight line to somebody, look to the daily doubles. You've got a big field here in the Del Mar handicap in race number 11 to work with, and key flight line 2 in the doubles. 11th on the program and wrapping up the Pacific Classic Day card at Del Mar will be the Del Mar Handicap. Field of 11 in here, one of the better betting races on the entire program Saturday at Del Mar. We've got a big field in here. Tis a Magician looks potentially loose on the lead, Jeff, but this is a mile and 3/8 on the turf. He's a dirt horse. Does it transfer?
I'm going to gamble that it doesn't because while Tis a Magician may make the running here, he is the ultimate grinder. You know, he doesn't really quicken. He just grinds away, grind. You know, it's like a typical mile and a half, mile and 3/4 type horse, mile and 5/8 type of horse. Mm-hmm. In grass, they're all going to come to you. You're going to have to quicken somewhere along the way. Yeah. And I can tell you, it's hard to steal a race at Del Mar on the grass because they all kind of bunch up, and the races are usually reduced to a 3/8 of a mile sprint. And Tis a Magician, you know, he doesn't really accelerate. He just kind of outstays you. But you can't win a race like this, I don't think, at this level on this turf course. I mean, he'll be in front and all that. Mm-hmm. But if he goes slow, he might be fresh for the drive, but all he's going to do is suck along everybody behind him that can out-quick him, and out-finish him. So I'm against Tis a Magician. I mean, these horses know each other. They've raced each other or against each other a lot. Right. And going over this race and watching the Eddie Reed, I mean, Masterpiece was terrific in that race, and he ran very well in this race over this distance last year. And he is an old class horse. He's only had 18 starts, even though he's 6 years old, 6 wins. Good horse down in Chile. I don't see any reason why Masterpiece won't run at least as well, if not better, than he did last year in this race, because I think he's better now than he was in his last year. And I thought his win in the Eddie Reed was, again, no fluke. I mean, he accelerated and really looked good winning.
Top of the lane, Tango on the outside. Master of Foxhounds, beyond brilliant. Now they coming from behind. Here's Masterpiece, the grey. Masterpiece, Hong Kong Harry coming late, but Masterpiece has gone right on by. And Masterpiece in an upset under Abel Cedillo. They win it clear. Second place will go to Hong Kong Harry, a 4-way photo for third.
Not afraid of the tote board. 22-1 won second in this race last year. 16-1 when Trevor Denman told you about the upset last time in the Eddie Reed. It's Masterpiece, probably a shorter price now off of that victory, but the public tends not to come after these horses that surprised them last time quite as hard as you'd think. So the public usually takes 2 or 3 times to dive in on a horse. I think you'll get a fair price on Masterpiece, Jeff.
Maybe, and he's a kind of a marathon horse who's never really had a chance to run a marathon. I mean, he's only won it twice. He's been a middle distance horse. Obviously, the Eddie Reed was in a mile and 1/8, but there was nothing about that race that would suggest that he really should have been 16-1, at least the way he won the race. Maybe going in, you can say, 16-1, I guess so. But there was nothing flukish about that. And by the way, I can tell you he's trained, even though you look at his work tab on 49 and 49 and 103, he's actually looked really good in the morning. So I don't think there's any drop off here. I think he'll run just as well for Michael McCarthy in this race as he did last time. Now, there are others in the race that have credentials to run well, but I don't think any of them can beat Masterpiece if Masterpiece runs back to his Eddie Reed win, and I think he has a very good chance to do that.
Main event on the Sunday card at Saratoga will be the Spinaway, Grade 1 season ender in the 2-year-old filly division. 7 furlongs the distance here, and you might think, well, we're just talking early developers for Saratoga. But Jeff Siegel, this race has produced the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winner the last 2 years. V-Quist 2 years ago and Echo Zulu last year. So might we have a Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winner in this year's field? That's a lot to ask you here the first week of September, but I'm going to do it. Do we?
We will have one here. I mean, this is a good field. There's one filly that I'm in love with here, but there are others in here that can run as well. Number 1, Kaling won her debut for Todd Pletcher. We expected her to win that day because she trained well. She looked good. Looks like a filly who will love 7 furlongs. Naughty Gal is Wayne Lucas's filly. She's already won a stakes here at Saratoga. Now, numbers-wise, she's not fast, but she's won 2 in a row. Leave No Trace in a pretty good number when she won for Phil Serpy first time out. But as far as I'm concerned, Wonder Wheel is in a different level. I mean, this is a daughter of Into Mischief. She won her first start at Churchill. Didn't even break that well. Still won going away. Came back and won the debutante by almost 7 lengths. Just cruise control in that race. Broke better. And then since she's come to Saratoga, she has worked like a superstar. You can see her on the inside here. She's going to go in 59-2. This is one of the best 59-2s I've seen all year. I mean, how easy can you go? The years are up. She's galloping. The jock's got a good hold. That horse that she's out working had just won a maiden special weight 2-year-old race at Saratoga. And this really, look at her stride. I mean, that's an athlete. Yeah. That is a really top prospect. Not getting tired at all. She's going to gallop out probably in 12 and change. I like her outside draw, and I think that the Wonder Wheel, based on her pedigree and the way she moves and the way her form is, I think she's incredibly promising and maybe as good a 2-year-old filly as we've seen this year.
I'll tell you what, she runs to that workout, they're going to be in trouble. She's got the pedigree, obviously, for 7 furlongs and to win early. The Tis Wonderful in the bottom of the pedigree. And, of course, the sire Into Mischief. His horses are great at any trip practically, but I just love them at 7 furlongs. It just seems to really hit them, right where that speed and class match up, and I think she's just going to be dynamite in here and could be a 3rd straight Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winner coming out of the Spinaway Stakes. A big field from a gambling standpoint with a field of 10 in the entry box, Jeff. If we like Wonder Wheel as much as both of us do, we're going to need to find somebody else underneath in here. Todd Pletcher's won this race 6 times. He's tied with D. Wayne Lucas for the most all time. He hasn't won it since 2016, but that's only a drought if your name's Todd Pletcher. Kaling in here, is she the underneath horse? Is she the one we want to look for?
I do like her, and I also think that she's going to really enjoy 7 furlongs. Now, in her maiden win, she won the race going away. They ran the last 8th in 14 seconds, but that was a really deep, tiring track. Early in the meeting, all the times were slow. I wouldn't worry about that. She's trained very well since, just a matter now of avoiding any kind of trouble. But Pratt will probably let her come out of the gate. I don't think he'll send her. I think he'll let her kind of get her feet underneath her and let her settle in somewhere in midway and then try to produce a run. And if it doesn't work, if doesn't win here, it's okay. I think they're probably thinking maybe we can stretch her out after that. So she's definitely one of these. I think Wayne's filly will run hard and fast, but I'm not really sure that she's quite as good as the resume makes her look. I mean, but it looks pretty good. Won by 9 at Churchill, came back and won the Adirondack. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't know. And again, by the way, another Into Mischief. But, I think she could hit the board at least. But I don't think anybody's touching Wonder Wheel. I really don't.
This is the race you want to see in this region of the country, though. You have the Adirondack winner in Naughty Gal. You've got the Schuylerville winner in Just Cindy, who we haven't mentioned, 2 for 2 for Eddie Keneally. So you have the 2 stakes preps leading into this Spinaway. Then you've got the debutante winner from Churchill and Wonder Wheel, who we think will be favored and the one to beat in here. So, like, from Kentucky to New York, these are all the fillies that are supposed to be here. This is a championship caliber matchup with those 3 major stakes winners going at it in here. And we think it's a 1-horse race with Wonder Wheel that she'll punch them out. We'll see how it turns out in the Spinaway Sunday at Saratoga. Let's go next to the Green Flash Stakes on Sunday at Del Mar. Feature race on the Sunday holiday. I was going to say the final day of the racing week at Del Mar, but of course they'll run Monday on the Labor Day weekend. So the Green Flash Stakes, the main event in here. And we've got a horse coming back, Lieutenant Dan to Del Mar, who at Del Mar last fall, he almost got all the candy for me, but he ran into a tougher customer.
They're into the stretch, and they gotta get Golden Pal. Golden Pal now set down by Arad Ortiz. Lieutenant Dan trying to make a race of it in second. Emirati is third to the inside, but it is Golden Pal. Golden Pal, wire to wire in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Lieutenant Dan was second. Charmaine's Via got third.
So, Jeff, it takes from the Breeders' Cup to today for Lieutenant Dan to come back, and I still haven't gotten over the defeat. So maybe they just kept him on the sidelines until I was emotionally ready for his return. Man, I wanted him last year, but Golden Pal was just too good.
We all of us did, knowing how well he had run here in California and proven at Del Mar for sure. Well clear of everybody else. He certainly ran a winning race, earned a career top 103 bar number in defeat, beating Golden Pal, who nobody was beating that day.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan just ran as well as he could possibly run. Now, the question is, he's back now. Obviously, Steve Miotti would like to have him back in the Breeders' Cup this year. He gets an extra half furlong to work with, which wouldn't hurt him back in Kentucky. The question, though, is how cranked up is he? This is not the most important race. But I tell you what, he has a history of firing fresh. If you look at his form, you'll see some really good races off layoffs. As a matter of fact, last year, he came off a year and a month layoff and won at Del Mar on this course going 5.8. So he can fire fresh. He won this race last year. So we know he loves Del Mar. He's got really good tactical speed, but you know he doesn't need the lead to win.
Right.
Now the question is, Jeremy, how is he trained? Well, he hasn't trained on grass. He hasn't trained in company. He looks like a horse that is going to be a little rusty off the bench.
Yeah.
But if you go to xbtv.com and watch his slow workouts, you'll notice what he's been doing, what Steve's been doing with him, going off nice and slow over a surface that he's really not that great over, although he can run on dirt. But he's come home really well. His last quarter, 24-2. I mean, he kind of 2-minute lick to the top and then, was left run a little bit through the lane. Right. He responded, picked it up. So I think he's as good as he used to be or was last year. The question is, how tight is he? Yeah. But his class may carry him through, and he's the kind of horse that you don't need to hone on him in the morning to get him fit. We've seen that. So I'm stuck with Lieutenant Dan because I tell you the other horse that I would throw in is Coulthard. I think he's a nice horse for Phil D'Amato. And I think he's a late running sprinter and he likes Del Mar. And if Lieutenant Dan isn't quite 100%, I think Coulthard right next door is going to be a horse that's going to fire big as well. So I think those are the two that you have to look at in the Green Flash.
Yeah, there's a lot of allowance caliber horses who are coming in good form in this race, but there's just not that dead set turf sprint stakes horse in here in the field. And so he should be able to outclass these. Fitness, not a huge factor when you're going 5/8 on the turf. You just need to be sharp. And we'll see if Miotti's got him sharp enough to go. Maven's interesting. First off the claim, Ryan Hansen Barn picked this one up for a 40,000 claim. Wesley Ward shipped west for some of that ship and win money, and they got everything right. They got the win, they got the ship's bonus, and then they got $40,000 on the claim. So with Maven, they got a little bit of everything on the way of sending that one out the door to a new barn. He was a pretty talented sprinter on the East Coast for Wesley Ward. Curious to see if he can step back up into the stakes company here. Not a great draw though. The 11 hole, no picnic on 5/8 on the turf. Thoughts on Maven in here?
Well, he's fast for sure, and you're right about what they did. Wesley, they got him sold. They got the purse. They got the ship and winning money. And it's as a 5-year-old gelding who hadn't been running well. I'm sure they were thrilled to move on. It's like again, I use the sports analogy where you got a 8-year veteran from the NFL, lost a step. You trade him and you figure, okay. His best days are behind him, but Maven's pretty good when he wants to be, and he's going to be very quick on the outside. And I understand why Wesley kind of dumped him and they culled him from the stable. But this is a horse that could be dangerous here if he can pop and go and get loose. There is speed drawn inside him, but he won't be waiting around for anybody. And maybe he'll get over and take him a long way. It's possible. You look 5/8 of a mile. I mean, you can do that on one breath, and I think with Maven, if he can get loose. He might outrun his odds. It'll be interesting to see how far he can carry his speed against this.
He might be like Odell Beckham for your Rams last year, right?
Right.
You think he's done, but then he's got a couple of catches for you in the Super Bowl that you need. So we will see what Maven's got cooking. Big weekend, though, as we review our stakes that we went over on this edition of the First Call podcast. Pacific Classic Day at Del Mar. We took you through 4 big races there, the Del Mar Mile, Derby, and Handicap, as well as the main event, the Pacific Classic. At Saratoga, every weekend's a big one, but this is the last weekend, Labor Day weekend at Saratoga. Flower Bowl, Jockey Club Gold Cup on Saturday. Sunday, we looked at the Spinaway at Saratoga as well, with a potential 3rd straight Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winner coming out of that race that we're really excited to see. And then at Del Mar, the Green Flash and the return of Lieutenant Dan. Want to remind you, if you're betting Saratoga and Del Mar this weekend, and we know you are, $30,000 in late pick 4 hit and splits. So each pick 4, the final late pick 4 each day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, will have a $5,000 sweetener from ExpressBet and FirstBet. So you have to make these bets on the platforms with the FirstBet and ExpressBet, but you'll get your pari-mutuel winnings plus your share of $5,000 additional dollars with just those players on the FirstBet and ExpressBet platforms who also take down the late pick 4. You could be looking at several $100s in addition to what you hit pari-mutually in those wagers. So you got to play those this weekend. Be sure to join us for that. Gulfstream Park, we want to remind you, has got the Florida Sire Stakes on Saturday. A couple there, the Susan's Girl and the Affirm Stakes go as races 8 and 10. Be sure to check out Gulfstream Park and look at the blog section at expressbet.com and news.first.com. We'll get you the artificial intelligence pick from the FirstBet app. We'll publish those for Saturday's big stakes at Gulfstream Park. You'll want to be on the lookout for those. Jeff will have all of his Saratoga and Del Mar analysis for you as well. And want to remind you that coming up on Monday, it's Labor Day, of course, which will be closing day at Saratoga. So there'll be mandatories going on at Saratoga. A reminder, the NYRA racing circuit will take a little breath then before going to Aqueduct in a week's time. Aqueduct will replace Belmont Park for a fall meet as they're building a tunnel to get the infield opened at Belmont Park. So the track's under some reconstruction there, not only the facility, but some of the outdoor areas as well at Belmont Park. So no racing at Belmont Park for their fall meet. It goes to Aqueduct next. Monday, All-American Futurity Day at Ruidoso Downs. I love the quarter horses. It's the granddaddy of them all, the All-American Futurity. Be sure to check out our coverage at expressbet.com. We'll have some handicapping look at that race coming up for you on Monday. But I can tell you right now, Chasing AJ is going to be my pick in the All-American Futurity. 4-horse on the program, number 1 in your heart. Is a beaten favorite, Jeff, in the Ruidoso Futurity. Beaten favorite in the Rainbow Futurity. He's getting it done this time at a better price. To qualify for those 3 major futurities when there's 175, 200 horses going for 10 spots, that tells you how good of a 2-year-old he is to qualify for all 3 major futurities. He's going to get the big one this time. $2 million purse in the All-American Futurity. So let's get Chasing AJ home on Monday, Labor Day.
Okay, I will piggyback on that pick for you. I know you've done your homework, and from where you're from now in Oklahoma, I mean, I know you know your quarters. I know you know those short runners. So I'm with you on that. So great racing, quarter horse racing, certainly thoroughbreds around the country. College football kicks off. I mean, is there a better weekend anywhere at any time than this weekend? Think about
it. Only if Oklahoma's playing in the national championship game and there's racing the same weekend.
All right, well,
then we'll go for that. That would be better than opening day, but that's about the only way.
We know this is existing. That other thing may or may not happen, but it might.
That's right. This date we can circle in the calendar. Should be a lot of fun on Saturday. Reminder too, Breeders' Cup Classic future wagering available at ExpressBet and FirstBet. John White's got that in his blog, so be sure to check out John's blog as he previews the Breeders' Cup Classic future wagering. And John's also got his picks in for the Pacific Classic. Spoiler alert, he likes Flightline.
No.
We all do on the Pacific Classic race itself. That's John calling right now to give Jeff the exact.
John's telling me that he makes the morning line down there. He's 1-5, and that kind of tells it all right there, although he will be. But we'll be enjoying that. Friday's busy day for me, by the way, because I've got all kinds of workouts I have to look at, both at Saratoga and Del Mar. Got to watch them, got to write them up. I want the horse player to have all the relevant information, so I will have that not only today, obviously, for today's cards, but for the big cards at Del Mar and Saratoga tomorrow. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to my computer. I'm getting my stopwatch out. I'm getting my notes out. I'm going to get my writing skills going. I got a lot of work to do today, but it'll all be worth it, and let's make some money tomorrow.
So you're saying I'm holding you up? Is that what you're saying? I'm holding you up? You got work to do? Time to go?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, in my own subtle way.
We'll talk to you on Tuesday with It's Official, where Jeff and I make 5 topics from the weekend official. Until then, be sure to check out ExpressBet and FirstBet this weekend for all the Pacific Classic wagering needs that you have. Good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
We're ready for the start.